So maybe Gene thought, okay, Vern, I'll let you down and let you go by me, and we'll see what happens.
One of the problems you can get into, though, if you run too close behind that lead car with Smith in front, Felton in second, if you run right nose to tail with them for too long, you can overheat your engine because you don't get enough air in there.
That's right. Fortunately, on this racetrack, they get into the infield, so they get a chance to let the engine breathe.
That's Gene's wife, and there's Gene, back out in front, by a nose, by about a wheel.
By golly, that's good racing.
That's
really good racing.
Marvelous racing.
Burns down below the white line. That shows that car handles pretty low. And you can drive them down there.
Oh, little wiggle there.
Now we've got a little slower traffic. I think they'll split this car.
We're coming up on Lynn St. James, I think it is. No, that's not Lynn. Check that. Handle that slower car with no particular problem. That is where Smith took over the lead 1 lap ago.
That was Paul Lean in the Oldsmobile Cutlass. Paul did what most drivers will do. He'll see the fast guys coming up behind him. He'll hold position. If he moves one way or the other, it creates a problem. They know they can go around him, but if he darts to one side or the other, that's the one thing they don't expect.
Well, when they were coming down that home straightaway, side by side, Lean probably didn't know where to go. The Camaros are coming. The Camaros are coming. Smith, about 5 car lengths on Gene Felton. Vern travels very light. He has, in some races, he has a crew of about 2. He may pick up 1 or 2 persons at whatever circuit they're at. And these guys help each other. A couple of races back, he cut a tire, had to come into the pits, and Craig Carter's crew helped them change the tires. They changed 3 of the 4. The one they didn't change 2 laps later went flat. But there is a considerable amount of back and forth helping of one another in this and almost every kind of racing. Here goes Felton again. Again, they're wheel to wheel. Oh, he took him with ease that time.
You can see the effect of drafting. You can get behind that car and it'll suck you right along. Gene is able to draft him, but after he goes by, he can't get away.
They're going to go at it like this for the whole 45 minutes, I suspect. So what a finish we are going to see. Felton's car running very, very strong. Now that's interesting.
Yep.
I didn't think that could be done side by side through that turn. I know it can't be done through the hairpin. And they're coming up on Paul Gentilossi in an Aspen. Should catch him here in this chute in the S's before the next turn. Maybe not. Two Camaros just going at it.
Paul moves over to the outside, lets the 2 guys go by on the inside. He doesn't want to mess up that race.
They can't draft on the slow section of the course. Drafting just isn't a factor. They're not going fast enough. Look at Smith bend the back end of that thing around, and here comes Felton again. Now Felton's closer to him coming off there than he had been before. This is just power. That wasn't a draft. That was just power getting off the turn. Got the better bite, and here comes Smith. And there goes Felton.
You know, Bob,
and here's how they say.
If this race stays like this, you're going to see 2 guys in the victory circle with grins from ear to ear, because this is what the guys come here for. This to them is a lot of fun. They're going fast. It's a little bit scary, but because they're race car drivers, they like this. This is great.
Just over 25 minutes remaining in this Kelly American Challenge at Pocono International Raceway. Little bumper tag. Here comes Smith. There goes Felton. Across start finish and into the first turn. They call that the oval turn at Pocono. Smith seems to be able to ride a much lower line through there, Bergie.
Well, I'm not so sure if there's a difference in handling or he's just trying to see where he can go. Remember, he's thinking ahead now about how Gene's car's handling. He's trying to size him up. Gene, when he's behind Vern, will try and size him up, because the race, if it stays like this, it gets down to the last 2 laps. Who can pass who? At that time, they forget about being friends, and they want to know where their car is better than the other car. So these 2 guys are looking to see which car has the advantage in which area.
Smith trailing Felton as they go up onto the back straight. We talked to the quiet man, Smith, from York, Pennsylvania, in the garage area earlier.
Vern, this race in Daytona, you got to hold on to get the championship. How does it look?
Well, we're running real well this weekend. We just qualified first. I think we've got about 4 or 5 tenths on the second place car, who is my nemesis, Gene Felton. But I think I really don't see any reason why we shouldn't place well. Of course, with my position in the points, I have to keep that in mind and maybe drive a little more conservatively than I would in other situations. But I would like to be able to lock up the championship this weekend so that I can go to Daytona and just let it all hang out, as they say.
Well, if you finished top 3 or 4 here, you would, wouldn't you?
I guess mathematically I could finish as low as 5th or 6th and lock it up. It would depend on who was in front of me and who wasn't. But basically, I need a top 5 finish here, and that should pretty well lock me in for the championship for this year.
You're driving a big car on a course which is very tight and narrow in some areas and kind of wide and fast in others. That's got to be a real challenge.
Not to to say bad things about the track, but the infield in this track is just the tightest, narrowest piece of race track I've ever been on, and it's difficult to get these big cars, ours, around it in single file, and any passing is just out of the question in there with any degree of safety. So what it forces you to do is that you play follow the leader through the infield, and then everybody who's going to do any passing has to do it out there on the banking at about 150 miles an hour. So that's not exactly the way I would like to have to do all my passing, but that's the way it is here.
That is Vern Smith, and that's the leader, Gene Felton. Felton out in front of Vern Smith. Tommy Riggins is still running in 3rd position, but he has dropped out of the battle for 1st. And a car in trouble in the pits. Nick Vicione in the Hornet, the hood up. Phantom Racing and some kind of phantom or poltergeist got him. Well, Vicione is in the pits in a 45-minute race. That is really bad. And here comes Vern Smith again. Across the stripe, side by side into the oval turn. Sounds like something to drink. And Smith takes back 1st place. Vern Smith out in front of Felton again. These guys are ramping around like a couple of puppies.
As Vern said a little bit earlier, if you can lead through turn 1 onto the infield, you're probably going to hold that lead all the way through the infield onto the oval. The trick is when you get on the oval, you've got to get enough lead so you can't allow the other guy to draft and then pass back on the oval.
And Felton seems to get off the last turn onto the tri-oval section with a little bit more bite than Vern Smith does. Felton seems to come off there quicker as he tucks his front end underneath the little spoiler on the back of Vern Smith's Camaro, and they are now out at the tri-oval. A little wiggle, a little fan dance there by Gene Felton. That cost him maybe a tenth. And now they go onto the bank portion. That's about 15-degree banking there. Smith in front, Felton, Tommy Riggins, Bob Overby, and Trey Carter. We'll be back at Pocono shortly. The battle continues at Pocono International Raceway between Vern Smith and Gene Felton. This time across the line, it is Felton. And we are now just over halfway through the 45-minute race. Vern Smith and Felton have taken turns leading since the race began. There have been no incidents in the race. A good, safe, careful, and fast drive by this field of American sedans. The Kelly American Challenge, a series which is growing both in its competitive aspects, its acceptance by the motor racing community, and I guarantee you by the fans. This is what racing is all about. Going at it wheel to wheel, good, clean, hard racing. Felton in front. Smith with a slightly lower entrance into that turn. Felton extends it because Smith apparently got a little too low in the turn. If you get down in the gray area, the black section of the surface is where you want to be. That's where the rubber is. That's where the bite is. You get out of there, you get up what they call the gray, the marbles. There can be little bits of rubber and gravel up there, and you lose the bite considerably. That is the third-place car, Tommy Riggins. Riggins, who hung in on that battle for first place for a considerable time and is not that far out of it yet. About a second and a half, 2 seconds behind the second-place car of Vern Smith. Tommy Riggins from Jacksonville, Florida.
Yeah, Tommy Riggins is not fading. He's holding a very strong third. He hasn't dropped back at all. Because of the camera angle, we haven't seen a lot of Tommy, but here up in the viewing booth, we've been noticing that Tommy is very much in the hunt. If either one of those cars spun in the front, he would be by him. He's that close. You can see him back there in the camera.
Tommy's in fourth place in the series standings, and a good finish here would move him probably into third place. Wheel to wheel, all day long.
Vern Smith says it's my turn, Gene.
Now, I'll tell you something, folks. Not only does that take a lot of brave, it takes a lot of brains to know what your car can do and where it can do it. Very wide, very wide. And there's Riggins hanging in. This is an excellent race.
You mentioned something just a few minutes ago, Bob, that I'd like to elaborate on. Whenever two cars are driving that close at these speeds, you have to really know the guy you're racing against. Both these guys have raced against each other, and you have to have respect for the other driver. You would not do this with an individual you didn't know or somebody maybe that had just started racing. You just get to know the other driver's moves, and you know he's not going to do anything stupid that's going to cause you a problem or him a problem.
Motor racing's versions of Who Do You Trust? This is a remarkable race. If you were with us when we brought you the Kelly American Challenge from Lime Rock, that's Tommy Riggins, third-place runner. You may recall that we had just an incredible finish. Vern Smith won it over Jake Carter by about a bumper length. Smith had to come into the pits, change a tire, got back out, and just managed to nip Carter at the wire. For reasons we'll explain a little later on. Here we go again, side by side. And one of these guys will come away with a barrel of money. Felton and Vern Smith across the stripe one more time. We have about 17 minutes remaining in the race. Felton in the purple and white Camaro. And Smith's all white. Both of these guys do almost all of their own work in repairing the cars, and obviously they do all their own work at racing them, and quite a job at that. A beautiful setting for a motor race on a beautiful day. It's breezy, but the breeze will not affect these cars. They're so heavy they just stick to the track. Part of the natural beauty of Pocono, Pennsylvania. Now Felton's managed to open up a bit here.
Yeah, something's happened in there.
I think Smith let the back end get away from him a little bit. In the S's, coming off the S's portion. So that Felton now has the biggest lead anybody has had in this race. It is 1.2 seconds as they go down that back straightaway, the Long Pond Straight. The mailing address here is Long Pond. As a matter of fact, speaking of mail, we'd love to hear from you. Pocono would love to hear from you. Let them know that you're pleased that we are able to bring this competition to you on ESPN.
Looks like Bob Overby.
It's Bob Overby. Bobby with a strong run today. Round-faced, smiling guy. Happy man. Doing what he loves to do the most. As the battle for first continues, and again, Smith has closed down on him. Smith very obviously has power, even when he's not drafting, to move in on Felton.
The only thing is, though, Bobby, he's back a little ways here. This is the furthest he's been back in about 5 or 6 laps. Now, I noticed he did not lose any distance on the tri-oval, but he lost a fair amount of distance on the infield that last lap.
I talked to Vern at the Kelly get-together last night and asked him if this circuit was going to be hard on tires. And he said he thought it would. He said he thought it was possible that he might have to come in for tires. So we may see some high-speed pit stops before this is over. Ordinarily you wouldn't, but it is kind of a rough surface. It is a cool day, however, which will reduce the tire wear some. You would hate to see a problem like that be a factor in the outcome of the race. Now, let's see Lynn St. James running in 10th place in that Mercury Capri. That engine has held up longer than she thought it would.
There was a good indication. Yes, that was a good indication of the difference in engine size and horsepower. Gene Felton with his big 400 cubic inch engine going by Lynn St. James with a lot smaller engine.
Streaking by her. Just streaking by her. I think she may be perhaps not using up all of that car just so that she can finish the race and collect some points. But right now, if she stays where she is in 10th place, she'll get only 1 point. Felton and Smith. With about 14 minutes to go in the race. Camaro versus Camaro versus Camaro. Lynn St. James has come into the pits. St. James pits. They are not putting the hood up yet. Looks like they're checking tires. So it could be that she feels the handling is not what it should be, and maybe it's tires. That's the way they stand at Pocono International Raceway. We will continue with the Kelly American Challenge in a moment. Changing the left rear tire on Lynn St. James' car, and she is now going to drop out of the top 10. Tough day for the lovely lady from Florida.
Yeah, Lynn St. James wants to get back in the race and see if she can salvage a few points. She's running 3rd in the series right now, and she doesn't want to give up any points.
She drives with her glasses on, and off she goes. We'll see if this helps the handling of the car at all, if she can go any quicker. Gene Felton is out in front. And in 2nd place is Vern Smith, and Tommy Riggins is closing in there. You see Riggins, just that yellow car, just swooping into the high bank at the east end. This is Gene Felton.